All right, we are live. And on today's episode, I interview an entrepreneur, jiu-jitsu black belt, former professional MMA fighter, a health and fitness coach, podcast host of the Outside Perspective podcast, where he's recorded just under 250 episodes over 5 years, and the founder and CEO of Impose Will, a St. Louis-based high-performance lifestyle brand founded on the belief that achieving anything in life starts with your mind. Their mission is to help regular people become their best mentally and physically. Welcome to the Winner Circle, Adam Meredith.
Thanks for having me, Derek. It's been obviously we talked a little bit before we got on the intro, dude. So I'm just really stoked to be here and talk with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You lived quite a hero journey thus far, and I'm excited to explore your path here to the now. And as we mentioned earlier before this call, just the goal with these conversations to really uplift, inspire, and empower listeners just to move forward with greater faith and belief in themselves on their personal journeys. So the question, like these questions are meant to uplift. And the first question starts us up as such. Adam, there's a lot going on in the world right now. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about what's going on in your world. What do you love about your personal world right now?
Dude, I really just love that I feel very fortunate that I get to just wake up every day and pursue my passion and like work towards my goals and the things that bring me fulfillment. I have like an amazing family. I have two amazing kids. I have an amazing fiance, and it's like the support that I have, it really allows me to, pursue my goals. And dude, as hard as being an entrepreneur can be, and like the uncertainty that comes with it, dude, I still wake up every day with like a purpose and a mission, and I just feel very fortunate that I get to pursue that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm excited to explore that purpose and that mission. That's a question I ask to everyone. Um, One of the first questions, just so we get a better idea of who you are. Like I read a pretty lengthy bio, and you even added some other pieces to that bio. Your father, your partner, your friend. So in all the roles that you play, what would you say is your personal mission here? And what's your purpose? What are your goals?
Dude, I mean, ultimately, dude, I'm just a regular guy who's just trying to just build the life that I see for myself. And yeah, man, I mean, ultimately, like it's very important to me to be a good father. I have two kids. They are 16 and 14. I started whenever I was really young. I mean, I had my son whenever I was 20 years old. And ultimately, like it's very important to me to lead by example for them and everyone around me, and just kind of show them that it's going to take a lot of work, and life's not easy. Most things in life aren't fair, but when you persevere and you work hard, and you dedicate yourself to something, that you can build the life that you want to build. So I mean, just simply, man, like I'm just trying to, help, raise like other good humans who go out into the world and leave their mark. All while just kind of, pursuing my passion, which, my core is like I am an entrepreneur. Like I always say, like I'm not employable. I've done the 9 to 5 corporate thing. Like I we were kind of talking a little bit before where like here in the Midwest of the United States, like in Missouri, you're kind of told growing up, dude, especially maybe it's just my generation. It's like you're kind of told the path to life and success is, you go to school and you go get your degree and you go get your 9 to 5 and you get married. And like I did all that very early in life and very young. I was like, oh man, yeah, I'm having kids and I'm getting married and I'm young and I must be ahead of the game. And then, life has different plans for you. Like I've been divorced. I was fired from my corporate job that I wasn't happy with at all. And like none of it was really like fulfilling for me as far as like the relationship that I was in and like the job that I had. And it took some like hard lessons to like realize that um that wasn't for me as far as like that relationship and that job. And it all kind of like led me to like where I am today, where I'm life is far better than I ever imagined that it could be. So I don't know, kind of like a long-winded answer of just saying like, like my purpose and my mission is just like I'm just trying to be like a good person and raise some amazing kids and just, build a company that will provide for me and my family, but then also help a lot of people.
Hmm. Incredible. I commend you for what you're doing, and you really are going for your win. And like this is what these conversations are about. Welcome to the winner circle. To me, being a winner means embracing the process over the destination. We live in a society when I get this job, when I get this relationship, when I get this belt, this title belt, this promotion, this
Mhm.
car, I'll be happy. And then we get there, and maybe there's like a momentary spike, and then we realize that's just temporary. And the thing that we're missing is to enjoy the process, to delight in the now, to completely surrender and dissolve yourself of the past and of the future in the present, attuning to that frequency, that vibration, that embodiment. And when we do so, like doors open, the journey expands. Um, Beyond our knowing, beyond our measure. And that's because we're present, we're in the process. So to me, that's winning. Being in the now, surrendering yourself with faith and humbly to what is, and that whatever is all happening for you rather than to you. And that's winning to me. What does winning mean to you, Adam? And how does that look like in your life? Like, what does your day to day look like today?
The details of a day to day kind of change. I always feel like every day is just today. But it's all geared towards the kind of the same mission of like growing this business or I feel like a lot of my day to day is just being there for my family or my kids and my fiance, and then just putting my energy into the business, which brings me a lot of purpose and happiness, and also a lot of headache at times for sure. But yeah, man, what is winning to me is it's a great question, because there are many times where I try to sit back and just enjoy the process, because I think it is important to learn from others' experience. And oftentimes, you hear tons of people say, you know, the best times of growing the business were like those chaotic times, those times where you're super stressed out and it didn't feel like it in the moment, because you're so busy trying to get to this end goal of selling the business or having all this money or whatever the end goal may be. So I do often try to remind myself that like these are the good times, and I don't want to like wish away my life just trying to get to this perceived finish line. So I mean, for me, like I think, yeah, man, I think really kind of to your point, the win for me is being able to wake up every day and pursue the life that I want to live on my terms. Like I don't have to go to this 9 to 5 that makes me completely miserable. Like I feel very fortunate to to have my health and to have my family and the loved ones around me, and be able to pursue pursue the passions and interests that I have.
Hmm. And a big interest you have nowadays is entrepreneurship. And like as you were talking there, I was thinking like the opportunity is to find like the ease that you and I find when we're rolling jujitsu, or training, fighting MMA into entrepreneurship where like what you're doing for your business and growing your business is just so effortlessness and easy. Not that you're not working, but you're just so deep in the flow because you're enjoying what you do. Um, and one thing that you're enjoying about your entrepreneur journey, like from what I gathered from our pre-podcast conversation, is imposed will. Like you're going all in on that. Why is that? Why are you going all in on this brand? And let's just kind of trace the history of how we got here to imposed will.
Yeah, for sure, man. As far as like how like how I got here, it's been a long journey. I think my whole life I've been very entrepreneurial. um I can remember one of my earliest times were like when I wanted to make money as a little kid. I like went and took some of my little toys and I put them out on my porch. I like tried to have like a yard sale, just because like I don't know, just inherently like I knew like you sell things and you can make money. And I remember as a little kid, in like middle school, like going around my neighborhood, like knocking on doors and like trying to cut grass or shovel snow. So there's always been this thing in me to like create my own path. And like I said, man, like I tried the path of where like I went and I got my undergrad degree and I went and I got my master's and I was working the 9 to 5 and I was doing all these things I was told I was supposed to do. And it wasn't like working out for me and it wasn't giving me fulfillment. So even as I was like working the 9 to 5, I was still pursuing fighting. Like I know I've just always had this sense to where like I wanted to have control of like my own destiny and like the inputs equal the outputs. I'm just a really big believer in just like doing the work. And again, kind of like going back to just the process, right? Like it's all about the process of just like whatever the day in and day out is. It can become monotonous. It can be boring at times. It can be frustrating at times. It's a hard journey. Entrepreneurship isn't statistically for everybody. It's only for actually a small subset of people. And as you know, most businesses fail. So I'm already climbing like an uphill battle, but I just feel like inherently for me, it's just like what I'm meant to be doing. So, even through the hard times, it's kind of easy to quote unquote easy to like get through those because like I said, like I don't feel like I'm employable. Like this is just what I need to be doing. So like I've always just wanted to make my own way, which is what led me into fighting. I had like a pretty decent MMA career. I did that for about 10 years. And, I kind of got to this point where I was really worried about my brain and brain health. Health and fitness has always been very important to me. And if in the fight game, if you're not all in, then you shouldn't be doing that because the consequences are pretty heavy. So I decided to stop fighting, and then I took that same energy and focus and dedication from fighting, and I just put it into other pursuits. And at the time it moved into like podcasting, which is what drove me to get to close to 250 episodes. Like I had a big goal of doing 100 episodes that first year, which took a lot of work and dedication. And at the same time I was still trying to like build this brand of imposed will, but I did finally get to this point to where I just look at it like if in any given day, if I only have, let's just, it's like you like growing up, play like video games. Like I don't know if you ever played like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. You have like your life bar, right? It's like at 100% at the beginning of the fight. If at the beginning of a day my energy bar is at 100%, if I'm splitting my attention and focus to like doing a podcast and trying to be a fighter and trying to grow a business, it's like I'm splitting my energy. And in any one of those fields, you're going to be competing with somebody who is only focused on that thing. So I just decided to just eliminate everything and just focus on the business. And I think it's probably been like the best decision that I've made.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if that answered your question. I think
Yeah,
there's a part to your question that I might have skipped.
no, that was perfect, and I'm excited to just continue to like unravel this thread. of imposed will. So now, like you had you're focused on different things. Like you had it on like your fight career, your professional fight career, your podcast, your business, being a father, like all these other hats, and you needed to really narrow in your focus on one in terms of business, right? So put the professional fighter on the side, put the podcast aside. We're all in on imposed will. What is imposed will? Your guys' mission is to help regular people become their best mentally and physically. How are you doing that?
Dude, ultimately, dude, imposed will is ultimately a mindset. We're really based off the foundational idea that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. And right now, where we are, the way I'm doing it now to try to help people become their best is, first and foremost, is just like leading through by example. Just the way I live my life and how I treat people, and just try to help build a community. Like our main focus as far as like what we sell has been really geared towards the jujitsu community, because that's where I'm very familiar with that community. Like that is my community, and I know them well. So I wanted to provide, good products for them. I mean, the things that we sell just kind of fuels the mission, and how will help people will change and evolve as time goes on, and we have more resources, and we have, just just more experience. But I mean, ultimately, I think there's just a lot of ways to do that. I mean, I think the seeds of the company started all the way back whenever I was in high school wrestling. I remember it very vividly. We would have like, tournaments are typically on a weekend, usually like a Friday or Saturday. And every Sunday we would come in and we'd have a practice. We'd either like go for a run, or we'd have like lifting, or maybe we'd wrestle some. But on this one particular day, I don't know what it was with my coach, but he wasn't too happy with how things happened at a tournament. And we ended up like lifting real hard. I mean, it was an extreme, like all the mirrors were fogged up, we're all sweating. It was a hard lift. And then we leave the wrestling room, we go across the street into the high school. And usually like each one of these things would be a workout or a practice on their own, but we're doing all this in one day. So it's like we go from this really hard lifting session, and then we go across to the high school, and we would run around. Like it was a big square hall, but like you run around the hall, and we have to like make a lap in, I don't know, like 45 or 46 seconds or something like that. And if everybody on the team from the 103 pounder up to the heavyweight didn't make it in that time, it didn't count. So like this particular day, like we just lifted real hard. Now we just sprinted. I think we did 16 laps, which I think equated to like sprinting like 2 miles. So we do that, we're all exhausted. And then it's like, all right, man, we have to be done, right? Like we just did this, like I'm done. And then no, dude, like we went back across to the wrestling room, and we proceeded to live wrestle for the next hour. And it was like the hardest practice. And I remember by the end of it, dude, like we're all crying and we're all exhausted. And hindsight being 2020, like I realized like our coach just like wanted to break us that day. And yeah, dude, like I remember there was this point in the practice where like I broke through this mental wall. I was kind of pissed. I was just like not happy we were doing all this. I'm like in a group of three with like me, and I wrestled at 189 pounds at the time. And I was wrestling with like our 215 pounder and our heavyweight. So it was like the three biggest guys were all in this group. And but like I just found this extra gear. And like after that day, dude, like I realized like we all have more in the tank. I think we kind of hit these mental barriers, and we think like that's it, but like we are all truly capable of more than we think we are. And a lot of it is just flipping that switch in your mind, or just understanding that you have more than you think you do. And I think that was the seed that kind of drove me through a lot of my life. I think, like once you wrestle, like everything in life is easy. Like that's kind of like a saying. And wrestling truly shifted my like the trajectory of my life. And I think just that understanding of that hard day of just like, man, I thought I was done. I was exhausted. Like again, we were all crying and we're just so fatigued, but like we got through it. And I found a new gear, and I was able to push through. And like that was truly the seed of like what the brand is, and like that idea is like what led me into fighting, and like pretty much everything that I've done up to date all really stems from like wrestling, and especially like that really hard day in the wrestling room. It's just like, man, things get tough. You think like maybe you don't have any more in the tank, but I mean, we're all capable of extraordinary things. So I think ultimately, like, I just want to inspire people and help them understand like you are capable and you are able to achieve the things, whatever that is. You can achieve anything that you really set your mind to, as cliche as that can sound. Whether that's like you want to be, a better partner, or you want to get in shape, or you want to get the promotion at work, like whatever the case may be, like you truly can do it. It's not going to be easy and it's going to take work. And as long as you can, I think, make that mental switch, it can really drive your entire life.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. What a lesson learned from that coach and embodied by yourself in the present, in the now, in your journey. Um, where you are also a coach now. So this lesson was brought into your awareness by that old wrestling coach, but now you are a coach and you coach jujitsu and other fighters. What have you learned in your coaching practice? Like, what have you learned through becoming a coach?
Dude, I think when you coach people, because like I've coached little kids in jujitsu. I've coached adults in jujitsu. I think it's really cool how God works in the universe. I was actually just thinking, I don't know, like a week or two ago, how fun it would be to like coach high school wrestling, and I just had this opportunity. I'm actually about to start helping with one of the high schools here in St. Louis, like being an assistant wrestling coach for this upcoming season. But it's just like you just you have to like learn that to meet people where they are, and to effectively like communicate and like make concepts easy, and just understand that everything doesn't have to happen at once. It's like, like when you teach somebody an armbar, for example, they're not going to do it perfect. In fact, they're going to do it probably pretty terribly, right? They're going to be really sloppy. There's a lot of you can nitpick and choose like 5 or 10 different things that they could fix all at once, but it's like, you just got to let people like work through the process and figure some things out for themselves. And like ultimately my job is just to kind of guide them and give them some general direction. I always say whenever I'm coaching class, like jujitsu is so self-taught. It's like, yeah, I might be teaching you the technique or helping you, maybe better understand some philosophies on how to apply certain things. But like ultimately, each person is teaching themselves. Like I'll show you a technique. Now it's up to you to go with your partner and drill that, and I can help you with some of the mechanics. But you have to learn how to, apply pressure here, or find the angle, or how does the leverage work. I think one of the intangibles of jujitsu is like weight distribution, and how to create leverage, and that's best for you and your body type and style. So it's like so much of it's just self-taught, right? So I think you really learn a lot with patience, and just understanding that everybody's at a different place, and you're just trying to figure out the best way to, like, whether it's like give them a particular cue, or to really pinpoint a certain um, like mechanical thing that they could be doing, just to like help get the best out of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Such a great learning experience by being the trainee, like the student, and now full circle to the coach. Um, let's discuss kind of the in between. When you became a professional fighter, so many kids dream of becoming a professional athlete. Especially boys, and I guess girls too nowadays. There's more opportunity for both sexes. And you did it. You became a professional fighter, and I think your professional record was 5-2. Um,
Yeah, I think that's what it was. 5-2,
and
no, 5-3. I think it was 5-3.
5-3. So you
Yeah.
had some wins, which must have felt incredible, and some on really big stages like Bellator MMA. And then you also lost. So what did you learn from like those highs and lows in this, like in the arena of professional sports?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think I was like a lot of little kids, right? Like I had massive goals of like I thought, man, when I grow up, I'm gonna be in the NFL. And I quickly realized like, I'm not big enough for that and not as athletic. Like, I mean, the best athletes in the world are doing that sport. And I think that's what was so awesome about wrestling is like it's one of those sports that's for everybody. No matter the size, you can be a little guy or a big guy. And so, I definitely had that goal of being a professional athlete, and that's what took me into fighting. And like you said, dude, with fighting, man, it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I think when you're a like a high achieving type personality where you have like massive goals and you're always pushing for more, I think it really just taught me discipline, especially in fighting. I mean, it's so much of the work is done by yourself. Like you do have a team that you practice with. It is still very much an individual sport, but there's so much work to be done, whether that's jujitsu or boxing or wrestling or strength and conditioning, getting the road work in. I mean, there's so much that has to be done. So I mean, it really teaches you discipline, and perseverance, and just the importance of like hard work and like locking in and doing the work in like the unseen hours. I think the unseen hours is like where the magic happens. It's not whenever you're in the cage and everybody can see you fight. Like, yeah, that's cool and all. And like the wins of like the highs of winning and the lows of losing are very real in those moments. But that's just like the accumulation of all the work that you put in. And I found a real appreciation for just like doing the work in the unseen hours, waking up in the morning and going for a run before I went to like the 9 to 5, or like, make sure I get my water in throughout the day, or, saying no to the cookies and the distractions and different things. So, I think those were some major lessons. But then also, dude, like, when you lose in front of everybody, it's like it sucks really bad. And you feel like the world's over and you feel like everybody like looks at you different, but you quickly realize, man, like everybody's living their life and most people don't really care that much. It's like, all right, so what, you lost, man. Like the people who care about you and love you still care about you and love you. The people who don't like you, they still don't like you anyway. So it's just like at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Like what matters is just like, like how do you feel about yourself? Like, did you put in the work? Like, are you being honest with yourself? It's truly not the end of the world. We're all going to succeed and fail throughout life, but what matters is like, dude, do you just keep moving forward? Because ultimately, you have to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And I feel like that applies not only to your life as a professional athlete, that can be applied to anything you do.
100%.
Which is, yeah, I don't know. It's a good reminder for me and everyone else listening, and for you yourself. So you also, another win of yours is your podcast. And I was talking to you about it before we hit record. Just like that's a huge accomplishment to record 247 episodes over a 5 year span. So many people have podcasts, but not many people kind of continue with that. I'd say most people quit before like double digits, definitely triple digits, and you made just under 250. That's a huge accomplishment. What was your podcast outside perspective? What was kind of the goal with that? What did you learn from that experience? And yeah, what are the takeaways from those 5 years podcasting that you are bringing into your experience in your imposed will business?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the goal was really a selfish one in that, like I was saying, like I'm not naturally like an empathetic person. I'm kind of like the guy, like you just like get your shit done, like you just get it done, and having like had kids very young, and you know doing some of the things that I've done in my life. Sometimes I'll look around. I'm just like I just didn't really quite understand, like like, for example, like, I don't understand how somebody has no kids and they work full time and yet they're still kind of like struggling. It's like, like that never like resonated with me. Like, what's so hard? Like, all you have to do is take care of yourself. So, like, as somebody who's always like kind of had a lot of responsibility and done all these things, like, it wasn't very natural for me to like feel empathy. So, like, I inherently understand that like people matter, and it's important, I think, to have perspective and to care about people, and like so for me, I wanted to like connect with people and kind of help build empathy. And so that's why I started the podcast, ultimately, was to gain some perspective and to have these conversations. And ultimately, if I could like build this thing that maybe potentially could um, help like provide money for me. Like when I started, I remember when I started the podcast, so many people were like, when are you going to monetize? When are you going to monetize? And it's like, look, dude, I just want to get good at this thing. Like I wasn't concerned about making money. It was just about like getting good at this thing, building a show that people would want to listen to. But then again, like I said, the personal piece was like, I wanted to actually make real connections with people and help gain some perspective. And I'm happy that I was able to do that. Like I've made some actually like really great friends through podcasting, and had some really good conversations that helped me see the world in a little bit of a different way, just through other people's experiences. So I just I had stopped fighting, and I was just kind of feeling aimless a little bit. So I was like, man, let me just put that same energy and drive into building this thing. And which is why like I really wanted to hit like 100 episodes in that first year. I think I started recording episodes like right at the end of 2017. Like maybe like I think maybe like November or something like that, I recorded my first episode. So as far as like true time, it might have been like right around like 4 years I actually did the podcast. And so like that first year was just a massive learning lesson. um and then like I think like after that second year we kind of slowed down, but then like COVID hit, which kind of pumped the brakes on the podcast a little bit, because I was a little bullheaded in that like I did want to still do them all in person. So I was just like, and instead of doing Zooms, I just decided to like slow down on the podcast. But it was like a great learning lesson. um Again, I think it just kind of helped build that muscle of like entrepreneurship, of just like doing things without having to be told, of like staying organized, reaching out to people. But also it did also help me like get better at communicating my thoughts and like working through and fleshing out different ideas, which also helped lead me to like the opportunity of doing commentary for podcast or for MMA. Because like when I was doing the podcast, like I got better at like speaking and communicating my thoughts, but then I was also doing a lot of like the back end work as well, which led me into like photography, which like got me at this job at a local MMA promotion, where I was doing like some social media photography for them. But because I was good at speaking and I was knowledgeable and I had done the sport, it led me into doing commentary for them, which I've been doing for like 2 years now. So it's just funny how those things work out. I mean, I think if I look at like one overarching lesson, man, it's just like it just teaches you to like just go. You don't necessarily have to know where you're going all the time or like where it's going to end up, but when you just take action, things will and opportunities could pop up that you never imagined. It could take you to a place that you never really envisioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And having faith in that process, that whatever's happening to you is happening for you.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's like a big piece that I've added on. Um,
Yeah,
it's like
dude,
a
100%. Not to cut you off, but like, dude, so I was working at a pretty big company here, and I was like doing project management, and like I smoke weed, dude. Like I've used cannabis since I was like 14 or 15 years old. It never affected my job. I was actually really great at what I did. Um, but I got hit with a random drug test, and I lost my job. And I remember thinking, I say this all the time now, like getting fired from that job was like the best thing that ever happened. It was like I truly believe like that happened for me. It didn't happen to me, because I wasn't happy doing that. And had I not got fired, I might still be in the corporate world. And that wasn't really for me. Like that happened for me because getting fired from that job led me down this path of like true entrepreneurship and truly being fulfilled with where I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe it's also because you didn't just like you went with it. You rather than fight against it. Oh, why is this happening to me? And trying to clamor back to where you thought you were supposed to be, but you're going with it, going with the flow, just like in jujitsu and MMA, like just going with the flow and having faith and trusting your instincts, like trusting your gut, going with that, getting out of your mind, being into the heart, and learning to balance the two. So yeah, that's incredible. Fear must have come up at so many points along this journey. Fear going into a fight, fear when you lost that job, fear being a dad at 20. All these fears pop up through our lives. How have you learned to make fear an ally and to work with it rather than against it?
Yeah, man, I think there's always like doubt that can creep in. I think it may be to my own detriment. I've always been kind of supremely confident. And I think that naivety will actually lend um, to a lot of good happening. Because sometimes if you overthink things, I think you can experience paralysis by analysis, and like just you get so scared for whatever reason that you just don't make any decision. So I've always just tried to like not overthink things to a degree, like especially with fighting, right? Like yeah, there's this level of like fear, like, oh my gosh, I'm about to go into this cage and this dude's also going to try to like hurt me. Like he's gonna try to we're gonna fight. They're gonna try to take away the thing that I've been working towards. But I've always just kind of leaned into like what I'm going to do. I think one of the biggest things that helped me with that was like I remember very specifically whenever I was wrestling again, so many life lessons I learned very early on, and like wrestling has always been this base for me. I can remember thinking like I was a pretty good wrestler in high school. Like I didn't start until my freshman year, but by the time I was a senior in high school and a junior, like I was like one of the best in the state. And I remember going against another guy who was absolutely amazing and like really stressing about it. And my coach took me aside and he's like, "Hey man," he's like I know what you're thinking, I know what you're going through, but like you have to remember like they have to worry about you too. Like you're a part of the equation. It's like you don't just have to worry about him, he has to worry about you. I think that lesson's really carried me far in life because especially like with fighting, I, I never really focused on the fear. I always just thought about, like what I'm going to do. And I just focused on my capabilities and like, hey, they have to worry about me. And I think that's what's served me well. I think if you over analyze things and if you focus too much on the fear and the uncertainty and the doubt, because there are no guarantees in life, if you focus on that too much it will paralyze you and it might stop you from moving forward. So I try not to even think about it, dude. I have a lot of confidence in myself, and I just focus on what I know I can do, and I'm just confident that I can get through anything and figure it out.
I like that about they have to worry about you, not you worrying about them. And I think you could translate that to just fear in general, outside the combat arts. Thank you for sharing that. Um, what advice would you have for a fellow hero on the path who they're up at the crossroads? They're at that crossroads of should versus must. So like the shoulds are like the shoulds from society, parents, teachers, um, telling them to kind of take the safe path. And the must is like the calling in their heart to go all in on something, whether that be all in on their business or all in their sport or all in on their pursuit of their education, quitting their job, going to um, yoga training or pursuing their profession as a full-time fighter, or starting that business, what advice would you have for that person at that crossroads of should and the must, and the shoulds of everything they've been told are keeping them stuck in place, rather than just jumping and going for it?
Yeah, dude. So I think I think there's a few things there. I think one, and you mentioned it earlier, is like I'm a firm believer in this, like trust your gut. Like always trust your intuition, your gut. Like you know what you need to be doing. Like believe in that. Also, like no matter what it is, you have to go all in. Like you can't have one foot in and one foot out. You have to go all in, and so it's really important to like, make a decision. But as far as like discerning the should and the must, dude, it's like I think that goes back to like trusting your gut and like knowing what's best for you. It's like you just have to learn to block those things out, because I think a lot of people have good intentions, especially parents and family members and spouses and whatnot. Like they have good intentions, but a lot of times what people will do is they'll place their limitations onto you. And ultimately, man, like I don't care what anybody's opinion is. Like I'm not like if you haven't built what I'm trying to build, or if you haven't done what I want to do, I don't care what your opinion is. I mean, I get opinions from people every day. Oh, dude, you should make this product, or you should do this, or you should do that. But it's like, hey, dude, if you haven't built a multi-million dollar or billion-dollar company, you can just shut up, because I don't care what you have to say, because you haven't done what I want to do. So I don't care what you have to say. And most people will try to place their limitations on you. So it's like if they haven't done it, then their opinion doesn't matter. And everybody has an opinion, and that's cool and all, but and you just have to believe in yourself and trust your gut and go all in.
Mhm, mhm. I love it. So many people you've met on your path, mentors, helpers, coaches, people you've idolized in sport and in business, have helped you on your journey. Whether that you knew them in person or you just read about them, saw them online. Who are these people? Who are these mentors and helpers? Um, what were their names, and what were the lessons you've learned from them that you've incorporated into who you are?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. There's a lot of people, it's like, one of our core values is like be curious. So like just always be learning and just trying to gain perspective from people. So I mean, I've just had so many. I mean, like I've already mentioned him a couple of times, but like very early on is like, like my wrestling coach in high school, Phil Cagle. I mean, he was a massive inspiration, and he's had a huge impact on my life. And it's funny because like he was at the time, he was the assistant coach of the team, and he mostly coached the little guys, but he was still a huge impact on my life. And I just really took away, again, like people have to worry about you. And he did put us through that really hard workout, which set the seed for like my business today, and just a lot of the understanding that we have more in the tank. Um, but like I'm always just trying to learn from just anybody, whether it's just a conversation I'll have, like whether it's what to do or what not to do. Like I even hate to give this guy, but like I was raised by my stepdad, and that's who I consider my father. Like so consider my dad. So like I mean, he always taught me, to like day in and day, like I don't think that guy ever missed a day of work. Like he never took a sick day. So it's like just like hard work and dedication and like persistence. I learned a lot of that from him. But then on the flip side, like my real dad, who is just not a human being I really care for. I learned a lot of like what not to do, like what kind of father I don't want to be, or what kind of human I don't want to be. But I'm always learning through like I love reading. I read a ton. So I think the people who write books, whether it's like Seth Godin, or like um, John Wooden, like Wooden on Leadership, or like Phil Knight, like his book was great. Um, there's or Phil Jackson even with like 12 rings, just like I'm just always trying to learn from, all these different people through books, or I think it's really great now today with like podcasting. I tune into quite a bit with like this guy. He's a huge entrepreneur, but he's actually based here in St. Louis. And it's kind of interesting because like I worked for him. His name's Andy Frisella. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but like he um he owns this company here called First Form and a few other ones as well. But like I worked for him like back in like 2009, 2010, whenever I was an undergrad in college, at supplement superstores. And he has like a massive podcast today. He used to have this entrepreneurship podcast called the MFCEO Project. So I've learned a ton from him, just like through like real life interactions or just like listening to his podcast. Um, Gosh, I mean, there's just so many. Like, I mean, my the owner of the gym that I coach at, he was my MMA coach. His name is Mike Rogers. Just one of the most caring and like nicest humans that there is that I've ever met. I mean, he let me train on his gym for free. I was a guy with just like a with some talent and like a a passion and like a goal, and I had no money, and he still allowed me to like train there for free. So it just like the compassion that he shows for people, the amount of people who like train at that gym who like have no money or who have like slept at the gym, he's helped so many people. So like that's left a big impact on my life. Some people like in the entrepreneurship space that I don't know, but I do admire from the far, like Gary Vaynerchuk or like Alex Hermosi or like Patrick Bet David. Like some of these people are have big voices in the space, and I've learned a lot from them, just like listening to their podcast or consuming some of their content or like reading some of their books. um yeah, man, I mean, my mom, I mean, obviously, she raised me. She also, I think, set a great example along with, like how to be like unconditionally supportive. She's always been like my number one fan. So, yeah, man, I mean, there's just so many people. I truly believe you can learn from anybody. I mean, anybody that you meet is guaranteed to know at least one thing that you don't know. So, I mean, you can learn from anybody.
Thank you for that just an elaborate answer. I really appreciate it, and it helped me view this question from a different lens. And I'm going to ask you something that I've never asked any of my other guests after this question, but I feel like this is something I'd like to ask you, and I'd like to ask, just be curious about. So all these people you named, whether it be like your coach, your mom, your dad, um, everyone, Gary Vaynerchuk, all these authors, like what would you say? And even let's add in everyone you've also interviewed on your podcast. What
Yeah.
is the what is the common thread that you can see in each and every one of them?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I think it's kind of different depending on what space that they're in. I'll just answer kind of from the entrepreneurial lens, of like what the major takeaway is from most like real entrepreneurs who aren't just trying to like sell you a course, or who have actually like never done something in real life but are trying to convince you that they have, is just like there are no guarantees. It's really hard. It's harder than I think this actually applies to anything in life. It's going to be harder than you think it is, and it's going to take longer than you think it will. And that's with anything. So I mean, you really have to like lock in and trust the process, kind of going back to what we talked about at the beginning. Is like you have to trust the process and like do the work. And I think that applies whether it's like personal development or building a business or to your relationships and family. Nothing comes easy, and it's harder than you think it is, and it's going to take longer than you think it will.
Hmm. That's for sure. And it's come up a few times now. Like it's gonna be hard, but it's gonna be worth it. Um,
And discipline is key. Like discipline is always key.
And it's gonna be for us. Through all your highs and lows, what has been your biggest challenge you've encountered on your path? What was it? How you overcame it, and what was learned from it?
Dude, I think the biggest challenge is usually like right between your own ears. It's like your mind. Your mind is truly your greatest asset, but also like your biggest enemy in a way, because you can't hide from yourself. You know all your insecurities and your fears and your thoughts. And I think learning how to control your mind and put out the negativity and still focus on the process and try to stay positive is really important. So yeah, I think the biggest challenge has just been just mastering my own mind. And I think that's like a daily thing. It's like some days you wake up and you're on a high. Some days you're like everything, like it ebbs and flows. Some days you're just like it's a lot harder, man. It's like a test day, man. You're just like just moving through the sludge, and it's not as easy today. You're dealing with a little bit more friction. But like if you just lock into the process and you do the things that you need to do, you can start creating momentum, and you'll get through those tough times.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. And your self-care is fundamental to making this happen. So, what would you say would be the fundamentals of your self-care that keep you in the process, that remind you to stay in the now? So let's just discuss these. Like, what are the your fundamental tools, the physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually?
Yeah, so I'm a stickler for like getting good rest. I think sleep is so underrated and often overlooked. Like I'm very adamant about getting proper rest. I'm not always the best at it, but I do my best at making sure that I'm getting plenty of water. I'm eating the right foods. I'm moving my body. And then also like just like having community. I think that's one of the best things about jujitsu is the community, having those connections with people. And I'm sure you can attest to this, like after a hard like roll day, some of the best times are just like sitting on the wall and just like talking with everybody after you just got done rolling and trying to like beat each other up and kill each other. So I just think that you know my circle is small, but like having those people around me, taking care of my body, getting that movement in and getting that rest in, and just providing the fuel is all really, really important. As far as like spiritually, man, I think that's one of those things that I'm still on a journey of like growth with. I grew up in a family like my uncle is like a pastor, and like I grew up kind of like with this like love hate of like religion. Like even today I don't consider myself Christian, but I do believe in God. And so I've always kind of been working on this spiritual piece. I think it's super important to be positive and like put positivity in the world and control your thoughts. But as I've gotten older, I do find more power and benefit in the power of prayer. So whether you pray or you meditate or whatever the case, but just like setting those intentions, and whether you call it God or you call it the universe, I think there's something to that, like having a vision board or journaling, and it's like setting those intentions, like putting it out there. I think that's really, really important. So I think having a relationship with God is important, and however you do that is up to you. I've gotten more into that as I've gotten older, and I think that's been very crucial. I think more people could benefit from having that relationship.
Yeah, I agree, and that's something that I've leaned into more in recent year, especially of putting something above myself, having faith in a power greater than like my egoic Derek identity self that is guiding me and that is laying the path for me rather than against me. It's all happening for me, and just having faith in something. I think it's knowing the power of belief. It's just scientifically, like irrationally, like it just makes sense to just surrender to something.
Yes.
Um, That has helped me. Um, My final question to you, well, there's a few. I ask it to every guest, and this is the time now to ask these final three questions. We've examined your journey from the beginning to now. You've been through many highs, many lows. What would you say has been the greatest life lesson you've learned on your path that you feel called in this moment to share?
Oh man, that's a deep one. That's a really good question. My greatest life lesson. Man, I think ultimately we all I think at times like we can all kind of feel like we're the only one experiencing something or going through something. But I think it's really important to know that um, you know, you're not alone, in this human experience. And then, we all experience things, and it may be a little bit different how you respond to it, but it's like ultimately like the human experience isn't crazy unique, if that makes sense. It's like we're all kind of going through this human experience. So like ultimately, like you're really not alone in this thing, even though sometimes I feel like it can seem like you are alone and you're the only one that's experiencing something. It's we're all on a journey, man. And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I have a real sufficient answer to that one. That's a really good question. I've never really thought about a whole lot, but for some reason it's just kind of coming to me like, we're all going through a human experience, and you're not alone.
Yeah, and we're in this together.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Like we need each other. Like people really matter. And maybe I don't know, something that has come to me like a major revelation that I've had. And I think maybe this did help me come to terms with like God. And I think it came through like psychedelic experiences. Like it's like I have a body. I am not my body. I think there's a lot of times where it's like you look in the mirror and you see who you are, you're like, that is me. But it's like this body really is just like a vessel for you call it a soul or your energy or whatnot. Like whatever you are is just like it's greater than what this is. It's like we're all connected in a way for sure.
Absolutely, I find the same thing, and what a blessing it is that we have the opportunity to lean more into that thing beyond like the atom or the Derek, our soul. We get to lean more into that and surrender more into that place. And as we do so, the world in front of us, and reality just it continues to expand, and I find that to be such a blessing.
Yeah, and actually to that, dude, like we're all capable of so much more than we think we are. It's like we're all God having a human experience. Like ultimately, at the end of the day, like that life force is so powerful. We're all capable of so much. I just don't think people realize just how much they truly are capable of.
And it starts in the now. It starts in being in that now, attuning to that now, and then it just ripples.
For sure.
So the next question, in 3 words, how would you describe the experience you're having in this reality? It doesn't have to be like a sentence, but just 3 words that you would use to describe like what is your life experience.
3 words for my life experience. Hmm. Dude, I'd say life is awesome.
Life
Like
is awesome. Sure.
Yeah, life is awesome, dude. I mean, it can be hard, it can be stressful, but I mean, at the end of the day, dude, this experience that we're all having is, I mean, it's a blessing, dude. Like life is awesome, dude.
Beautiful. Um, we've been in your past, we've been in your present. Let's go into the future. Let's fast forward, let's time jump. And we're going to be alongside an 85-year-old Adam Meredith. Who are you? Where are you? Who are you surrounded by? And what are the predominant feelings in your being?
Dude, I'm hoping that I just feel a sense of peace and accomplishment. And the people that are around me when I'm 80, I'm just hoping it's just like, my kids and my wife and my loved ones. And I'm just hoping that I'm just surrounded by the people that I care about, and I've left an impact with the things that I've done in my life.
Beautiful. And what is this impact you would have life to have left? Like, what is the legacy that you're leaving? What is the message you are sharing?
Again, another great question. I hope I just I just leave a positive impact on the people that I interact with. And I think that can manifest in different ways, but ultimately I just want people to just say, like, you know, he was like a good dude, he was honest and he was open and he helped bring out the best in me. And you know, I, obviously I'm not a perfect person, but I just hope that, I can just leave a positive impact in some way on those people, whether that's like giving like a kind word or, helping them realize that they are capable of more.
Incredible. So I just invite you just to close your eyes and just really connect with that 85-year-old man, be in his spirit. Just feel into just deep peace, accomplishment. You've left a positive impact on all those you've touched. You're surrounded by your loved ones, your wife, your children, your children's children. You've been open, you've been honest, and you've helped bring out the best in people. So just feel into the feeling of being that man and having lived that life. And I'm going to bring us back. I'm going to bring us back to the present and that 85-year-old man. He whispers something in your ear. What does he share with you, Adam?
Mm, mm, it's tough. Dude, I think everything is worth it. Like everything that you go through and everything that it's all worth it. Yeah, I think at times we can wonder if it's worth it, but it is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just delighting in that blessing now, and then it'll just ripple on to our future self and everyone we touch, including people listening. And thank you for sharing you with me. I feel really uplifted, inspired, and empowered. The goal of going into this, for people wanting to connect with you, Adam, they can find you on Instagram at Adam Meredith underscore, and they could connect with you at Impose Will. Um, both on Instagram and online, imposewill.com. You guys are a high performance lifestyle brand. I'm wearing your shirt. You sent me some shorts, a sweet rash guard here. Super grateful for that and all the amazing things you're doing in this world and in your community. Any last words, Adam?
No, man, Derek, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you having me on, man. This was really fun, so thank you.
Right on. To close every episode, we bring our fist in, step into the winner circle, boom, fist bump. Thank you so much. I hope to connect soon.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Derek. I appreciate it.